So let's continue with breathing and exchange of gases, and let's see the topic of breathing from NCERT, page number 185. See, breathing is a two-stage process which includes two steps called as inspiration and expiration. We also call it as inhalation and exhalation. So what is inspiration? When the air is drawn into the lungs from the atmosphere, that is, the intake of oxygen into the lungs is called as inspiration process. And when this alveolar air is released into the atmosphere, that is, the carbon dioxide from the alveoli when released into the atmosphere is called as the expiration process. So if we see the structure of the thoracic cavity, on the dorsal side, the thoracic cavity has the vertebral column. On the ventral side, the sternum is present. The diaphragm is present on the lower side. And there are surrounding ribs on both the lateral sides which form the thoracic cavity. So hope you know that the movement of the air into the lungs and out of the lungs is carried based upon the change in the pressure inside the lungs. The change in this pressure gradient, that is, the lesser pressure help in inhalation and the higher pressure will help in exhalation process. And this pressure gradient can be maintained by maintaining the volume of the thoracic cavity. So as the volume increases, the pressure decreases. Also, as the volume decreases, the pressure increases. So let's start understanding about the process, the inspiration. Inspiration is entry of oxygen from the atmospheric air into the lungs, and this air will move from high pressure to low pressure. That is, for inspiration, we have to maintain a lower pressure of the gases in the lungs. That is, the intrapulmonary pressure should be negative. So a negative intrapulmonary pressure means the pressure is lesser compared to the atmosphere. Now how to do this? This is done by increasing the volume. So here comes the two main muscles which help in the process. These are the muscles of the diaphragm. The muscles of the diaphragm will help in the process, and the second is the muscles of the ribs. The muscles of the ribs are called as intercostal muscles. There are two types of intercostal muscles, that is internal intercostal and external intercostal. In the case of respiration, the muscles used are the external intercostal muscles and the muscles of diaphragm. Now let's see what happens when these muscles will contract. When the muscles of diaphragm will contract, the diaphragm from the dome-shaped structure will become flat. So dome-shaped diaphragm will become flat, and this will increase the volume in the anterior-posterior direction. So the volume increases anterior-posteriorly. The second is the external intercostal muscles of the ribs. So as these muscles will contract, the rib cage is lifted up. As the ribs and sternum are lifted up, the volume increases dorso-ventrally. So let's understand again. So the green color is the normal relaxed condition. Now what the changes are occurring, just observe here. So two muscles are involved. The first one is muscles of the diaphragm. As the muscles of diaphragm will contract, the dome-shaped diaphragm will become flat, and we can see this red area has increased now. So the volume has increased in the anterior-posterior axis. The second one is the external intercostal muscles present in the ribs. So these ribs, the muscles, when they contract, they will lift the rib upward. So this will increase the volume dorso-ventrally. So when you compare to the original volume, now the new volume has increased. As the volume increases, the pressure decreases. As a lower intrapulmonary pressure, the oxygen enters into the lungs. So during contraction, we use ATP. So I can say that the inspiration is an active process in humans. I think this overall picture of inspiration is clear. We'll do the exactly opposite for the expiration. So what happens during expiration? So during expiration, both the muscles, that is the external intercostal muscles, as well as the muscles of diaphragm, both the muscles will relax. As the muscles will relax, the straight diaphragm, that is the flat diaphragm, will again regain the position, that is the dome shape. So during relaxation, the diaphragm will again become dome shaped. As the diaphragm will become dome shaped, you can see this much of volume has decreased. The second one is the external intercostal muscles. As they relax, again the rib cage will go back to the normal condition. So as they go back to the normal condition, you can see the overall volume has again decreased. So let's understand again. So this yellow color is the expanded area which was increased during the inspiration process. As the contraction of the both muscles during the inspiration. Now in expiration, both the muscles will relax. That is, the muscles of diaphragm will relax. This will make the diaphragm again dome shaped. The second is the muscles of the intercostal, that is the rib muscles will also relax. So the rib will go back to the normal position. So now you can see the volume of the thoracic cavity has come back to the normal condition. So as the volume has decreased, the intrapulmonary pressure has increased. As air moves from high pressure to low pressure, this CO2 is released back into the atmospheric air. Now this is called as the expiration process. The expiration process, both the main muscles of the respiration part will relax. As relaxation does not require any ATP, I can call this part as a passive type of stage. We understand that both expiration and inspiration are possible as the volume is altered, which in turn will change the pressure. Other than this, we can also increase the strength of our respiration. So strength of inspiration and expiration can be done by additional muscles called as the abdominal muscles. See, when you go to the doctors, they say take deep breath. So when you take deep breath, you observe, put your hand on your abdomen and observe. So these muscles are involved in this additional or breathing with more strength. On an average, we breathe 12 to 16 times in a minute. Also, there is an instrument by name spirometer. Spirometer is used to measure the volume of the air which we are breathing. So the volume can be estimated by using the instrument called as the spirometer. The spirometer will help in the clinical assessment of the pulmonary functions. So this is about the breathing. Let's continue with the next topic, that is the volumes and capacities. So here you can see the picture of a spirometer, and this is used to measure the volume of the air involved in breathing. This helps in the clinical assessment of the pulmonary functions. So let's move on to another interesting topic which generally confuses you during the NEET examination, that is the respiratory volumes and capacities. There are basically four volumes: the tidal volumes, the inspiratory reserve volume, the expiratory reserve volume, and residual volumes. And when you add them, take them in different combinations, they will form something called as the capacities. So try to understand there are four basic volumes, and when you add these volumes in different combinations, they will form something called as the capacities. The four volumes are the tidal volume, the inspiratory reserve volume, the expiratory reserve volume, and the residual volume. So these are the basic four volumes. So we'll see one by one. The first one is the tidal volume. So what is this tidal volume? See, we inhale, we exhale. Then we inhale, we exhale. So when we inhale and exhale, the air is moving in and out. So this in and out movement of the air, how much we inhale, how much we exhale at one time, is called as tidal volume. So tidal volume is the volume of air that is inspired or expired, that is the air which we inhale or exhale during normal respiration. So the normal breathing process, how much we inhale and how much we exhale is called as the tidal volume. And this tidal volume is 500 ml for one time. And if you remember, we can breathe 12 to 16 times in a minute. That is, so in a minute, we generally take in or inhale and or we exhale nearly 6,000 to 8,000 ml of oxygen and CO2. Or I can say 6 to 8 liters of the air we can inhale and exhale in 1 minute. I think this is clear. So first one is tidal volume. Tidal volume is the air which we inhale or we exhale during normal respiration. For one time it is 500 and for a minute it is 6,000 to 8,000 ml for 1 minute. Now let's move on to the second one, the inspiratory reserve volume. So remember, other than normal respiration, I can also go for forced respiration. That is, I can inhale forcibly, I can exhale forcibly. So other than the normal respiration, the air which I take by forced inspiration is called as inspiratory reserve volume, IRV. So IRV is the volume a person can inhale in the forced inspiration. This is nearly 2,500 to 3,000 ml in one time. So I can take 2,500 or 3,000 ml of air by forced inspiration additionally, other than the normal respiration. So I think these two are clear. So when I can inhale forcibly, I can also exhale forcibly. So amount of the air or the volume of the air which is exhaled during forced expiration is called as expiratory reserve volume. So other than normal respiration, what I am expiring forcibly is called as the ERV, that is the expiratory reserve volume. And this volume is nearly 1,000 to 1,100 ml for one time. So let's quickly see differences between the three. In normal respiration, what I inhale, exhale is called as TV, the tidal volume. Other than normal, if I go for forced inhalation, it is called as IRV, inspiratory reserve volume. Other than normal, if I am forcibly expiring, forced expiration, it is called as ERV, expiratory reserve volume. How much are these volumes? The tidal volume is 500 ml for one time, and for 1 minute it is 6 to 8 liters. The IRV, the inspiratory reserve volume, is 2,500 to 3,000. The ERV, expiratory reserve volume, is 1,000 to 1,100. So I think these three are clear. Now what is residual volume? See, imagine a balloon and we are blowing into this balloon. When you blow the balloon will increase in the size because of the air inside. And suppose you release the air, again the balloon will become flat. So when the balloon will again become flat, do you think there is no air at all? Is it completely vacuum? No. Actually, already some air is there to which you have added more air. So balloons are never empty. Some air is already there to which we have added more air. The same thing is about the lungs also. Lungs always contain some air to which we inhale and exhale. That is, lungs are never empty. So this air which always remains in the lungs is called as residual volume, which can never be removed. So residual volume is the volume of the air which remains in the lungs even after forced expiration. So even after the forced expiration, this air cannot be removed, and this is called as the RV, that is the residual volume. And the residual volume is 1100 to 1200 ml. So now I think all the four volumes are clear. So let's revise. What is TV? The tidal volume is the volume of the air which is inspired or expired during the normal respiration. This is 500 ml for one time, and for a minute it is 6000 to 8000 ml. Other than normal respiration, what I can take extra during the forced inspiration is called as IRV, which is 2500 to 3000. Other than normal, which I can exhale by forced expiration, is called as ERV, that is the expiratory reserve volume, which is 1000 to 1100. As we have seen, lungs are never empty. A small amount of air is always present in the lungs. This volume of the air, which always remains in the lungs, even after forced expiration, is called as RV, the residual volume. So I think these volumes are clear. So as I told, when we add the volumes, we get the capacities. So let's start adding them now. So what will I get if I add IRV and TV? So IRV is also inhalation, TV is also inhalation, a part is there. That is, this will form inspiratory capacity. So what is inspiratory capacity? So inspiratory capacity is the total volume of air that a person can inspire after normal expiration. So how much can I inspire? I can take the IRV and I can also take the TV. So IRV plus TV is called as the inspiratory capacity. So inspiratory capacity is IRV plus TV. If I add the volumes, so this is nearly 3000 to 3500. So first capacity is by adding IRV and TV, that is the total volume of the air a person can inspire after the normal expiration. This is by adding IRV and TV, that is the IC, inspiratory capacity. The next is, let's add TV and ERV. So TV also have exhalation part, ERV is of course expiratory reserve volume. So now I get EC. What is EC? Expiratory capacity. So what is expiratory capacity? It is the total volume of the air a person can exhale after the normal inspiration. This is called as expiratory capacity. And how we get expiratory capacity? It is TV plus ERV. Let's see the third one. What is called if I add ERV and RV? This is called as FRC, the functional residual capacity. So FRC is the volume of the air which remains in the lungs after the normal expiration process. So how much air still remains in the lungs is called as the FRC, the functional residual capacity. And the FRC is ERV plus RV, that is expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume. Now let's add all the first three volumes except the RV. That is, if I add IRV plus TV plus ERV, what I will get is called as VC, the vital capacity. To understand the vital capacity, let's understand like this. These are the lungs. The lungs always have RV. If I'm breathing normally, inhaling, exhaling normally, I also have ERV in my lungs. See, ERV is exhaled only during forced expiration. And now I am breathing normally. I am in normal expiration process. Then my lungs already have ERV and RV. So how much can I inhale? The maximum air which can I inhale. So how much air can I maximally inhale? I can inhale my TV by normal inspiration, and if I try harder, that is, if I go for forced inspiration, I can also inhale IRV. So now my lungs have IRV, TV, ERV, and RV. So of this, how much can I exhale? The maximum exhalation process. So if I go for forced exhalation, how much can I exhale? So if you remember, except RV, I can remove all the three from my lungs. So this is called as the vital capacity. So vital capacity can be called as the maximum volume of air a person can breathe in after forced exhalation, or the maximum volume of air the person can breathe out after forced inhalation. That is, except for RV, I can go for forced inhalation or exhalation of only the first three, that is, the IRV, the TV, and the ERV. So only these three can either be removed or they can be inhaled. So this is called as vital capacity. Let's move on to the last one. And what happens if I add all the four volumes? That is, the TV, tidal volume, the IRV, the ERV, and the RV. So what happens if I add all the four volumes? Now this is called as the total lung capacity, TLC. So what is TLC? TLC is the inspiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume and the residual volume. So TLC is the total lung capacity. So TLC means the total volume of air which can be accommodated in the lungs at the end of the forced inspiration. That is, after inspiration, the forced inspiration, how much can the lungs accommodate? You can see in the picture clearly, the lungs can accommodate IRV, TV, ERV, and also RV. So all the four volumes can be accommodated in the lungs at a given time by the forced respiration method. So this is called as TLC. So hope you have understood the volumes and capacities. The volumes, when you add the volumes, you get capacities. So let's quickly revise. IC is IRV plus TV, which is also equal to VC minus ERV, which is also equal to TLC minus FRC, and so on. So try to focus on the alternatives of these formulas. So look at the diagram, then you can understand how we get the IC. The second one is EC. EC is TV plus ERV, or I can say it is VC minus IRV. So let's see FRC. So FRC is ERV plus RV. I can also write it as TLC minus IC. And from the above diagram, we can also get different type of combinations. The last combination is VC. We can also write VLC as TLC, VC as TLC minus RV. I can also write it as IC plus ERV. I can also write it as EC plus IRV, and so on. And the last combination is the TLC, and TLC is IC plus FRC, TLC is VC plus RV, and so on. So there are so many combinations for the capacities. Just you have to focus on the diagram and see which capacity is the addition of which type of volumes. Hope you understand. Let's continue with the next topic.